That tend to happen when a distracted, submissive population allows the government to dictate what medical procedures they get, what drugs they take. This is a well-known and horrifying chapter in American history, so you'd think the news media might point this out, but just the opposite. Here's a clip from yesterday in which the saddest of the CNN anchors begs this administration to make vaccines mandatory.
What about Kathleen Sebelius, former secretary at HHS? Because she talks about the idea that maybe the administration shouldn't completely abandon the idea of not, if not vaccine mandates, at least encouraging some businesses or public places to require them. She says, quote, I'm trying to restrain myself, but I kind of had it. You know, we're going to tiptoe around mandates. It's like, come on, I'm kind of over that. I want to make sure the people I deal with don't have it so I don't transmit it to my granddaughter. So why not encourage, if not governments to mandate it, then some businesses at least to require it?
The media demanding forced vaccinations. That shouldn't surprise you. They're not in the business to inform the public. They're in the business for power. They couldn't get jobs in finance, but this gives them a little swat. That's literally why they have the jobs they do. And they love their new power. What's interesting is that no other organized groups of sensible people who aren't emotionally damaged like your average cable news anchor, none of them are saying anything either.
July 9, 2021, it is a Friday. What is the response to mandatory vaccines? We're going to first start with the military, because I've had a couple people ask me about them serving in the military and how the rumors that the military are going to be mandating the vaccine. We're going to be talking about that today. I'll cover all the other stuff. I'm sure that if we address stuff about the military, you can almost cross-apply it to the civilian world, but the emphasis this evening is going to be on what should the military do. Of course, we got a update. We got a kind of a round robin. There was a cyber attack. There's Chinese genetic testings going on. Would Jesus support a pride parade? Would he walk in a pride parade? You've got the DOJ spending more money on a database to investigate its own citizens from the January 6th insurrection. The FBI is going to go to Haiti to try to figure out who did kill the assassinated their Haitian president. And then President Trump pins an op-ed. So there's a lot of different things we're going to be talking about today. Before all of that, my bias. For those of you all new, my name is Jarrin Jackson, and I love America. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming and watching. I do this live stream Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Central, and I do it from a biblical perspective. My mission is to bring the gospel into politics. So anything that people talk about in politics, culture, finance, computer, technology, military, the legislation, free market capitalism, all that stuff, yeah, we bring the gospel to bear into that because I believe politics is an arena where the Christians have retreated. I believe folks have successfully thwarted the Christian presence and has convinced a lot of people, don't talk about Jesus here. Go talk about Jesus in those churches once a week that we're going to shut down whenever we unleash a bioweapon on you from China that was paid for by your taxpayer dollars. So I bring the gospel everything. To that extent, I wanted to let you know where I come from. My bias, this is why I'm telling you this. The foundation of my knowledge is I am a Bible-believing Christian. I believe the Bible is the holy, inspired, inerrant, perfectly preserved Word of God. I can go into what that means if you want me to. A lot of people don't think that they should believe the Bible. We're not going to go off on that real fast, but I can defend my beliefs. You might not believe them, but that's on you, not on me. I'm a Christian, which means the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus Christ is the only way to salvation. You understand that though the word in Romans 1 is the same word as dynamite, that word was written in dynamo or dynamai. I'm not a Greekologist. I'm a stuffologist. But that word dynamite or that word dynamo means power. But that was way before dynamite was ever invented. So what was the power there? The power was much more forceful, much more evident. In fact, I would suggest that the word dynamite came from the overwhelming effect and presence that word had, which is the power to salvation. Anyway, I am a constitutional defending, patriotic Rush baby. Rush Limbaugh was a support, not a supporter. I was a supporter of his. He was a mentor. He was a role model. He was the bard of America, communicating freedom, love of country, the integration of conservatism into the everyday life. He was ahead of his time because he understood what these godless commies were doing. He says the left, he said the Democrats, he said progressives. I call them godless commies, folks. For me, it's all about where do you stand with Jesus. If you are against Jesus, you are a godless commie. You might be on my side politically, but if you're not with Jesus, you're a godless commie. And I want you to repent and believe the gospel so you don't go to hell. Because hell's going to suck. And I'm not going to go there. So I won't know from first-hand experience. And I hope that you don't either. Lynn Wood, multiple-time endorsed Trump supporter. That's right. Let's roll the rock and let's get going. So this happened. People are starting to see things that some of us have been seeing for a while. And the very few of you guys in my audience have been seeing for years. All I gotta say is, it's about time.
All right, people. What is up with the earlobes? 1980s Joe Biden. Joe Biden now. Detached earlobes, attached earlobes. And I mean, look at this picture. That is not the same dude. Detached earlobes, attached earlobes. Detached, attached. Detached, attached. Like, I'm not even a Q guy, but can somebody explain this to me? I didn't just pick and choose all those photos to fit my narrative. I literally typed Joe Biden pictures into the Google machine, took the first 10 that I found, and that's what we end up with. I am so sick of everybody acting like this is normal. Is it a body double? Is he a reptile? We all know he's a pedophile. Attached, detached, attached, detached, detached, attached. What is this sorcery?
For those of you all who have heard that the government is going to send people out to sparse counties where people aren't vaccinated, you're wondering what to do if they come to your house. Here's an example from a 90s movie that talks about Jacovid. Jehovah, Jacovid. There you go.
What's up?
Good morning. Are you prepared for Jacovid's return? Because if you're not, we got some pamphlets.
Sometimes you just got to slam the door in their face, or not answer the door, or just not pay attention to them. I was going to clip an article or a video from, what's her name, Jen Psaki, Circleback Girl. I didn't have the time because I was reading an article about the how the FDA licenses vaccines. So very, very cool stuff. So I didn't have it, but yeah, she was saying, Jen Psaki was saying that they're going to be deploying members from the federal government, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, into states, mostly rural places, rural counties where the vaccination rate is low, because they want to get people vaccinated, which is, we are well past the time of limited government. This is not the role of government. Yes, that's obvious. That's not the role of government. But don't you see how we're so far past that? I had someone today that was like, gets mad, and understandably so. She's saying that something to the effect of, we're just going to keep retreating, and we're pacifists. And eventually we keep redrawing the line in the sand, and eventually we're going to retreat into the water. And I was like, man, if you frame your perspective on a political view, yeah, we're in a bunch of trouble. If, however, you frame it from a spiritual perspective, I see a target-rich environment. Basically, anywhere I go is an opportunity to wage war spiritually against these godless commies. Now, you might not like that. I don't like that. But that's how I choose to see it, because I'm not going to get depressed or beaten down by these folks. And you got to think, if they're going to the rural communities, because the rural communities, say that 5 times fast, aren't meeting the statistics or the benchmarks or the milestones that they want them to, that means the country folk ain't down with the program. So that's good. Maybe you should go to where the country is. Just saying. It would be my consideration. Along those lines, here's another way to respond if someone asks you if you've been vaccinated.
Number one, you didn't answer whether or not you've been vaccinated.
Well, first of all, it's none of your business, but I'm going to tell you. I'm not vaccinated, and until there's some science, by the way, I have a Master's of Science degree from MIT. I'm not a virologist, but I can read data. Everybody just needs to read, and don't put your head in the sand. Look at the data. I'm not going to get the vaccine until there's data that shows that it will improve upon the immunity that's been conferred to me as a result of a natural infection that I had.
Yeah, so that's the actual scientific perspective. Just to keep rolling, that was Sassy Thomas Massey from Kentucky. Sometimes I like what he does, sometimes I don't like what he does. Libertarians, man, libertarians. Here is one of my favorite congresswomen, Lauren Boebert, and she's just on fire. This was, I think, 2 days ago from the well of the House floor. Watch this.
Now, I have some questions for these freedom haters. When are you going to call on the chief executive, the basement dweller, to hold his own son accountable for his gun crimes? Hunter Biden lied on a federal firearms application, which is punishable by up to 10 years and a $250,000 fine, of which 10% will not be going to the big guy. Rules for thee, but not for my crackhead Parmesan-smoking gun criminal son.
It's just funny. She said crackhead, because he is. Oh, man. See, I don't want politicians. New standard. If you are milquetoast, vanilla, middle of the road, we have to pass the legislation in order to balance the budget. Get out. Get out. I need warriors in the arena. They're going to match the level of crazy that these godless commies are bringing. If you've got Ilhan Omar and she's got towels on her head, and you've got AOC and she's actually from a privileged background, but she's going to fake the funk through a bartender and be like, my Latina background, I don't have any money. If she's going to do that, we need Bible-believing, boot-wearing, straw-gnawing, gun-toting hillbillies to get up there and be like, y'all done said bad things, you hate America, and y'all are godless commies. I want people. The first time someone says someone is a godless commie, like an elected official calls someone else a godless commie, whoever that person is, I will max out donate at that moment to whatever their campaign is. Not if you're running for office, but if you're in the political office, like you have the position and you call someone a godless commie, you will get whatever I can give you to the legal limit. Why? Once these words hit, like once they take root, boom, they will spread like wildfire. Marjorie Taylor Greene called somebody she used the word Nazi needles. And people are like, whoa, Nazi. It's like there's power in the words. You call someone godless. We might have a heathen pagan culture. We may have a well past Christianity culture. You call them godless, you ain't messing around. Like, you're clarifying the issue is that you don't have God. That's a big deal. I think that should be a big deal, because otherwise it's my liberal opponent, the Democrats over there, or worse yet, my colleague from across the aisle. No, it's not your colleague. That person hates America. The person hates America. He's not my colleague. He's a redcoat in the Capitol building. Oh, boy. All right, did you know that China is doing gene therapy? This is from Reuters, and a couple other places reported on this today. Do you know what this is about? China's gene giant harvests data from millions of women. Let's do a poll quote. Basically, these godless commies, literally godless commies, they were taking... I'll summarize, because that's a lot of words. They were taking tests from women, pregnant women, and they were trying to decode the genome. Big fancy science stuff. I mean, I'm a stuffologist, right? I'm a stuffologist. I gotta secure that a little bit more. I gotta turn my phones off. Sorry, I have my phones on, and I don't want phones on when I'm talking. The people were trying to decode the genomes. They're trying to map the genomes to the body, figure out all the sciencey stuff that God made. Humans are still trying to figure that one out. So haven't caught up to God yet. But Godless Commie China is doing this, and there's a couple applications to this. I don't like that one. Let's do this one. This is further on in the article, which is where all the really good stuff is always hidden, by the way. The Reuters examination also sheds new light on the concerns expressed by U.S. expert panel. Led by artificial intelligence, these godless commies are doing stuff. Now, what are they doing? It's the blending of biotech, so studying virology, immunology, studying how the genes are sequenced, how specific ethnicities of people have different genes. And so if you are able to develop a bioweapon to target, let's say, white people or black people or Asia people, that's the path that these godless commie Chinese people are doing. And if the Chinese are doing it, don't you doubt me that the Americans are doing it. In fact, I believe this is what Dr. Anthony Fauci was doing by funneling taxpayer dollars into Wuhan, China. I believe he was developing the weapon. I believe, this is just my belief, I believe that they were doing that to target people more specifically. Unleash a virus in Africa against Africans. Unleash a virus in Asia against Asia. Europe, Europeans. And America, just all everybody, because we're all mutts, right? Show me a full-blooded American. I'm full-blooded American. I got vet hat, bronze stars, and flag out front. Amen. Yeah, you are. But your blood is a mutt. You're all over the place, homie. And that's good, because God cares about Jesus' blood. So there you go. What was I saying? The last part of this, he said, and boost funding for its own research, British, to counter China's state-driven effort. Do you understand what's going on here? So this article, and this is how the game is played. I shouldn't say the game. This is how the war is waged. The war for your mind. They come in through your eyes, in through your ears. The godless commies are doing bad stuff because they don't have a relationship with Jesus. Collectively, they hate God, which is why they're always on the path to consolidate power, oppress humans, and they don't give a flip about God's created order, whether it's climate, whether it's human rights, whether it's legitimate or high-integrity business practices, or whether it's a government that acknowledges its role is limited and not, total. They're godless commies. Well, they do stuff because they're evil, and because they're evil and they're trying to take over the world to counterbalance the United States. They're trying to defeat America, death by 1,000 cuts in one of those ways, if they can do it. If they got to sacrifice a few of their peasants in Wuhan to figure out if a bioweapon is effective enough, that's fine. Notice how it didn't get let out in Shanghai or Beijing. Interesting. But if these godless commies do this, you see what we're doing over here? Now our press is telling us, hey, the Chinese, they've got bad stuff. They've got bad weapons. Don't we need to have our own funding, and don't we need to be doing the same thing here? This is a bioweapon arms race is what's going on. They're trying to justify bioweapons arm race. And I was always wondering when I read Revelation, how does a fourth of the human population die? Okay. I get it. I get it now. It's like these scientists are designing weapons to kill humans. Maybe we should fund that just so that we can have the ability to do it too. Oh boy. Senator Chuck Grassley, which we are supposed to trust if you are into that, he has received, according to this guy, Jack Maxey1 on Twitter, he has received a exact copy of Hunter Biden's laptop. And if you look down to this part right there, it says he received on March 3rd the SanDisk drive that was a perfect replica of Biden's laptop. Will this go anywhere? Will it do anything? Probably not. Just a little tidbit for you to let you know that a U.S. Senator, a Republican, Trump supporter, has the digital copy of Hunter Biden's laptop on their pedophile sex tapes, drug use, business dealings, Burisma, conflict of interests, selling out national security to other nations. I mean, all sorts of stuff. It's all out there. So now we're going to see if people actually do something about it. Now, there's probably you. I get you right there in the back. No, not you. The next person. Yeah, you. I understand that you're saying this and it's like, Jarrin, why are you doing this? This just makes me feel bad. I'm not doing this to make you feel bad nor good. I do what I do so that you know, and that by knowing, you're just like, okay, this is what's going on. Put that in the back burner. All the while, live local. All the while, preach the gospel. All the while, read the Bible. Love your friends. Love your family. Love your neighbors. Forgive. Repent. Tell someone you love them. Tell someone the gospel of Jesus Christ. Keep that on your focus. Live local. The more local you're good, the more local you live, you'll be fine. I got this from a listener. This is a home purchase. Black Star Auction is looking to buy homes. Look at this. Homelight from San Francisco. Hi, good news. Homelight wants to show you an offer for your home. What? This is someone who's not even like selling their house, but this is someone unsolicited bringing them. Sell your home as is. No open houses, close in 7 days, no real estate agent, no hassle, no stress, 2-minute sign up. There you go. Bill R. That sounds official. That's probably not the name, but what's going on here? If you paid attention yesterday, you understand that I highlighted something called BlackRock. BlackRock is an investing company, and them, together with Vanguard, are becoming some of the largest asset holding portfolios or institutions in the country, dare I say the world, British. And what they're specializing in is buying individual residential homes. Why? If you buy up a bunch of residential homes, though they are paying 20, 30, 40, 50% above the asking price or the market value, what you're doing is two things simultaneously. You're driving up the price of available inventory, available homes, which makes people who are trying to buy homes have to pay more money for those homes. While at the same time, you're consolidating the ownership of the homes. And so who is buying up all these homes? Whoever runs BlackRock. Who runs BlackRock? Godless commies. What are godless commies going to be doing when they start to own all these homes? Well, they're going to rent them out. When they rent them out, when they have people like you sign your lease, what do you think they're going to be saying on these leases? They're going to be saying you can't have guns, you have to have things in your house, listening devices, you have to have a certain type of lock, you have to have you can't run your air conditioner over 76 degrees, whatever it is. These are basically going to be little petri dishes of utopian godless communism planted all across their portfolio, arrayed geographically throughout the United States. And whenever people come into these places, do not doubt me. They're going to be saying stuff like, you have to be vaccinated. You have to have a social credit score of like 1 million. And by that way, social credit score, where are you? Where are you? This is from the Gateway Pundit today. Gateway Pundit says a digital currency might give the Fed the power. Now, the Fed is not the government. It might give the Fed the power to approve your mortgage based on factors other than credit worthiness. Quick note. The Fed, fact, is not government. It's not controlled by the government. It's not controlled by you and me and we the people. It's not regulated by Congress. It's a private organization. It is ran by the Rothschilds family. Now, this is the third day that I've mentioned these people. Why do I bring it up? Because there's a lot of stuff about money going on. And there's also godless commies in the comment section, which is great because they need to repent of they need to repent of their sin and believe the Bible so you don't go to hell. Because if they say that Jarrin hates Jews, it's like, oh man, you guys are dumb. No wonder you guys are LGBTQ. It don't make sense. So you enjoy your LGBTQ and your sodomy and you're not good thinking. But the fact is that that's true. There are people that own the Federal Reserve. It's a private entity. And through their ownership of this private entity, they have over-leveraged the United States. They've diluted the market with cash currency, the US dollar. They've inflated prices, which means they've driven down the average person's purchasing power. You ever watch those Western movies whenever they're able to buy like everything for a nickel? I'll buy your tack. I'll buy your horse tackle. I'll buy a pistol. I'll buy a trolley ride, a corn dog, and the latest picture show for 2 cents. 2 bits? You got 2 bits and you can pay for all that? You're rich, mister. Yeah, that means that you have a lot of purchase power with a small amount of currency. You put a lot of currency out there and you have to have more currency to buy the same amount of stuff. basic economics. But this is not a hatred thing. This is the way that the world is organized thing. And if people don't recognize that, maybe they're too focused on their LGBTQ instead of actually like thinking through what's going on. But this article that I just played, this one that I just showed, let's do that one. Pull quote from here. It says, just imagine, let me get this down here. Just imagine next time you go get a mortgage for your home. Now remember, you got companies like BlackRock, you got companies like what's it called, Black Star, buying up homes for, cash on cash, 7 days closing, no real estate agents. You wouldn't go down to your local Wells Fargo branch. Remember, Wells Fargo 2 days ago stopped doing personal line of credits to its customers, making people who make frequent and habitual chronic bad financial decisions unable to continue to make their bad decisions and buy themselves out of the current bad situation by getting more money. Basically, Wells Fargo stopped giving people personal lines of credit. So you see how all this is connected. The Fed is, could be, this is not guaranteed, but could be putting in a position where they could approve your mortgage based on your social credit worthiness. Well, here it's your mortgage could be upped or down, approved or disapproved, your loan interest rate, all that stuff. The reason why this is so important is if you get back down this, you would have a credit score. Quote, they could use a social credit like we're kind of seeing in China. Why is this important? Because as monopolies and conglomerates, big tech, this is why Live Local is so important. Live Local is the inverse of this. It keeps your dollars local. Speech, sheriff, school, shop. Preach the gospel. Have a Second Amendment sheriff that knows what it's about. Teach your kids to love the country. Teach your kids truth, that there is a man and a woman and nothing else. And then lastly, see the cow, eat the cow. Keep your dollars local. That's Live Local. A lot of other things, but that's Live Local. Field manual pending. The idea is that if to go to war with this stuff spiritually, to go to war spiritually with this stuff, you have to understand what they're doing. What they're doing is these godless commies are buying up the stock of where you eat, where you live, your entertainment. They've got locked down for like 6-7 decades, but they're moving to water supplies. They're moving to basically all the necessities of life. They have the amenities of life locked down. All the frilly stuff, all the one-touch delivered to your door type places, they got those locked down. But now they're moving into the domain of the necessities. And once they get the necessities, boom, they're able to do stuff. What is this stuff they're able to do? Well, let's just see where are we at. Where did I see this? This happened in Iran today. Iran had its trains. Someone did a hack. I can't find it. There was there it is. There was a hack today in Iran that basically delayed all of its trains. Now they put on there fake messages about train delays, cancellations, and then they ended up by putting the office number of the country's leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, who doesn't believe the gospel, so he's going to go to hell if he died. He needs to repent and believe the gospel like you do. But so these hackers demonstrated how easy it was to get involved with the trains. If they can do that with trains, can they do it with planes? Can they do that with gas stations? Can they do it with power grids? Can they do that with water? See, if anything's connected on the internet, like your voting machine, people can manipulate it. People can hack it. People can change the outcome. Now, while this didn't kill anybody, does it really have to? See, what Klaus Schwab was talking about yesterday as I played him, that Satanist was sitting here saying that he's going to try to manipulate and instigate a cyber pandemic that's going to make this COVID pandemic look like a walk through the park. The reason why he would do that is if they own the assets, they're able to introduce a digital currency where they could try to manipulate or control your behavior with a social credit score, which would allow you to buy or not buy stuff. And then they're moving in. Bill Gates is buying up farm. Just all this stuff, folks. This is why we live local. This is why I just continue to beat the drum. Well, Jarrin, we're not having an effect. I don't believe that at all. I think many of you, maybe I just need to do a better job of showing the responses I get from you guys. But just this small and growing audience and this O-list celebrity, I promoted myself, people are starting to figure out we're not going to do things the way that they're supposed to do. And this is actually the way that patriots fight back. Patriots fight back by living local and making sure that they focus on the places in their life that they have the influence. They don't focus on the stratosphere way up here where they can't influence. You can call your congressman. You can write your congressman, and you should. And that's going to be one of the pieces of advice I have for my military folks. But you have to understand that your dollars are bullets, your prayers are nukes, and your local community, that's the arena that you have to dominate. Have to dominate. As we go, Biden fired the Social Security chief. Why is this important? If you are on Social Security, do you feel confident that the Trump appointee was fired and now Biden's Social Security appointee is there? Now, I don't know a lot about these guys, other than the fact that the old guy, the guy that got out, Andrew Saul was replaced by some guy with a bunch of K's in his name, Kowijikalokali, and Kowijikalokali has never done it before. But the Social Security administrator, the guy that's running this thing, you got to send checks out on time. You got to send money out on time. Call me skeptical, but after November 3rd, when 5 states stopped counting and the election was stolen and the subsequent of vote tallies, I just don't trust anybody in government like more than usual. And so if I'm on Social Security, if I'm on a fixed income, like some of you are, like you are, then, you have to be thinking, what are they going to be doing? How are they going to tinker with this? And this is one thing that I've always hated about Social Security. Not just the dependence of it, but it's the exploitation of it. All anybody has to say is they're gonna jeopardize your Social Security, and this is I'm not insulting. I'm diagnosing it. I'm making an observation. Anytime someone says they're gonna take your Social Security, all the people who receive Social Security unify. It's like band of brothers, like Spartans. They lock the shields. It's like a phalanx. It's an impenetrable Fort Knox of voting block, and they just smash whoever went after it. Someone just whiffs of Social Security. It's like, what? And so I could see, and I don't know stuff, folks. I don't have any sources, but I could see with this switch out, this dramatic, unexpected, immediate, abrupt switch out. All these things that are going on, I would not put it past these godless commies to kind of turn the dials a little bit and see if they can't get the older folks, the folks that reliably vote all the time, to fall back in line and do what they have to do in order to keep getting their check. It's one of the many reasons why I hate the Social Security. The most important reason why I hate Social Security is not the theft. See, corruption and theft and compelled behavior, all of that is expected. We live in a sinful world. You know what the thing I hate about Social Security is? I believe it has facilitated and accelerated the divisions of the generations. My older people, my older generations, you have the wisdom, you have the experience, you have the observation, you have the intelligence. Social Security has been used to drive a wedge between you and younger generations. Anytime it's threatened, that's the focus. That's the focus, at the expense of school curriculum, at the expense of open borders, at the expense of fair free trade for people who are trying to build companies and do all that stuff. If you threaten my Social Security, that's what I care about. And the godless commie Democrats and liberals and progressives and rhinos and all these other people have so frequently and habitually just gone to that well. They're taking your Social Security and pushing Granny over the cliff. That what they've done is they've divided the wise from the listening. And now the people who would be listening to the older folks, like it was back in the day, I've got all this other stuff to pay attention to. So I'm going to pay attention to all this other stuff because all those old people are so selfish and rambunctious and focused on their Social Security check. That's not true, but that's the generational perception. That and you chuck in there a bunch of pride where people have, pages dedicated to themselves. Society went bad when it started putting filters on Instagram. It's like, listen, man, if you're going to put yourself out there, let me know how ugly you actually are. Don't duck lip it. don't duck lip it and put a filter on there. FBI is going to Haiti. which means that the assassination of the Haitian president will never be known. We will never know what actually happened. The FBI is going to go to Haiti and try to help people. The UK is passing, vaccine passports for pubs. Just pubs, bars. They want to eliminate places where people gather. They want to make it harder. They want to make it painful for people to get together. Why? An isolated people is a compelled people. An isolated and separated people is a controlled people. When I was in the infantry and we would detain someone to get a prisoner of war or whatnot, the 5 S's: separate, silence, segregate, secure, and speed. Speed them to the rear. Get them off the front lines. But one of them is segregate. Separate them. Get them away from their homies. Don't let them talk. Don't let them talk. If they can talk, they can think. If they can think, they can figure things out. They also have hope. Why do you isolate prisoners? To break their will. To depress them. To crush their spirit. It's no different. With that, let's roll the DOJ. Let's not roll the rock. DOJ is spending $6 million on a database to investigate the people that were the insurrectionists on January 6th. Pull quote from here says the FBI is reportedly using facial recognition technology to identify suspects involved in the breach. Federal prosecutors have the support, and they're going to be getting attorneys of all sorts, but they may be hiring it out to a third party issue. The compensation is $26 million. So a $26 million contract for somebody to tattletale on their citizens, on patriots that were there, ushered in by Capitol Police under the control and direction of Nancy Pelosi. You know what this is? Do you know what this is? This is the justification of the integration of the police state's currently disparate apparati into one. This is bringing it all into one house. Because now that you had the insurrection on January 6th, now you can bring in the FBI, the NSA, you can bring in the DOD, the DOJ, you can bring all these people in one roof. See, you thought that they did that with the Patriot Act, and they largely did that after 9/11. But this are Americans. These were insurrectionists. And so that's the justification. It's like the godless commie tree that just kept giving. It's like the fruit of the tree of knowledge that just kept giving death. And one of the things that this keeps giving is it's a small amount of money. $6 million isn't anything for the federal government. But what it's doing, it's allowing them to integrate artificial intelligence, crosstalk databases, blend interagency jurisdictions, all for the purpose of tracking down Americans. Interesting. Roll the rock. Let's get to 2 articles, and then we'll talk military Mando vaccines. Trump had an op-ed. I think this is important because Trump is not quitting. When's the last time you saw a president 6 months after he left the orifice bring up an op-ed? And was the title of that op-ed something like "Why I'm Suing Big Tech"? Was the thrust of the article something to the effect of one of the gravest threats to our democracy is a powerful group of big tech corporations that have teamed up with government to censor the free speech of the American people? I am suing big tech. This guy doesn't quit. Another quote. He says, no longer big tech giants simply are removing specific threats. They're manipulating and controlling the political debate itself. No, the reason why I love this argument is because this is a presupposition. President Trump has correctly and intellectually, like very, very deftly, I should say, identified what the issue is. The issue is not the debate. The issue is who controls the debate. Big tech controls the debate. They can nuke you. They can push a button and you're gone. Some person with blue hair who hates Jesus could be sitting behind a computer clickety-clacking. If they hear someone, like the gospel presentation, for example, say stuff, they can just get rid of them. That's not right. It's not deeply un-American. It's immoral and it's unconstitutional because these free companies have received over 20 years of federal protections. If you give me 20 years of federal protection and no one can touch me in a court, watch. I'll be able to do a lot of stuff, especially if I'm able to manipulate folks and control what they do and steal elections. If I'm able to do that, yeah, I'll have the trillions of dollars they do. But this pushes up Oh, no. Is that the... Oh, yeah. So he says, consider the content that was censored last year. Big tech companies banned users from their platforms for pushing evidence that showed the coronavirus emerged from a Chinese lab, which it did. And they now admit that it's true, which it was. So these people weren't just reporting facts. They were manipulating the presentation of truth. As I demonstrated on the whiteboard yesterday, truth shapes belief. Belief shapes culture. Culture shapes politics. If you hide the truth, or if you lie about the truth, you're manipulating belief. That's what the godless commies do. The godless commies lie about what's true to manipulate what people believe so they can control the culture, so they can control the politics. That's what they do. It's pretty smart. All right, let's roll the rock. Let's get to Jesus real fast. We'll always get to Jesus. Always Jesus. Always. This article was written by someone who does not know the God of Scripture. What would Jesus do? And this is the Star. What would Jesus do if he during a Pride? What would Jesus do during Pride? That's so stupid. Pride what? What would Jesus do during one of the 70 deadly sins? He would die on the cross, because he did, and then he'll come back and kill everything with the sword of his mouth, because that's what the Bible says. So what would Jesus do during sin? Simple. He'd wave the rainbow flag and march in the parade. That's just heathen. That's just a lie. It's just straight up a lie. Michael Corrin, you suck. Your brain's dumb. He says, what would Jesus do? Simple. I say this as a 62-year-old straight, married, ordained Christian cleric. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh. That guy. He doesn't know Jesus. He doesn't know who Jesus is. I say this as a 62-year-old straight, white, what other kind of stupid he said? Straight, married, ordained Christian cleric. Why not an image bearer of God? Why not someone who has repented of sin and believed in the resurrected Christ? No, he's got to give his resume. This is a logical fallacy. It's appeal to authority. If you have to bolster up your resume in order to say things that people believe, then you're not speaking truth. What you're doing is you're focusing on who you are. This is why when someone says, as an African American, hold on now. They said African American, so because they have a lot of melanin in their skin, we got to listen to them because of the melanin. If they didn't have melanin, we wouldn't listen to them. But what about the South Africans? They're from Africa. What if a South African, and they're mostly white, or a lot of them are white. What if the South African came to America? Is that an African American? Is a white South African in America? Is that an African American? Or is that a white privileged person? You're not really privileged in South Africa. You're getting all your stuff taken from you. But the idea is, he's saying who until 8 years ago, which is right around when Obama evolved. So is this dude's standard of belief the Bible, or is this dude's standard of belief the president who changed and manipulated the way that people think? Equal marriage. What is equal marriage? You're a Christian cleric. In any of your Christian clericness, do you understand that God ordained marriage? And if God ordained marriage like he did, and he references in Genesis 2:24, a man shall leave his parents and he shall cleave to his wife and the two shall become one flesh. That is the example of biblical marriage. That's what God instituted. Jesus repeated on this and he said, let not what God has made whole, let not man separate that which God has made whole. So if Jesus were in a pride parade, he would call people to repent because he loves them. But if it's Jesus on Judgment Day, then there ain't going to be no pride parades. He's going to bust everybody. But the idea, people change, thank God. Literally in my case, thank God. Right? But God doesn't change. You can change, but God doesn't change. God's not the author of confusion. The most confused people on the planet are the LGBTQJJJCs. Like, do I have a... No, I deleted them all. Do I have a... No, I don't. Like, the most confused people on the planet are the ones who are like, am I a boy? Am I a girl? Am I a girl? Am I a boy? No, I'm a pansexual gender new choice penguin. You don't know what gender I am. It's like, I look like a tiger with all of my makeup and my cat eyes. It's like, no. You can change, but God doesn't change. God hates his crap because it's evil and it's disgusting. And it goes against his law. It goes against who he is. He's a holy God. He's a God of order. He's not a God of chaos. Anyway, so that's that. I just figured I'd say that because that's like the sin of the day is sexual indulgence and fornication. And that's all sexual sin. That's all sexual sin. That's lust, that's masturbation, that's pornography. It's all the same. Don't hear me just picking on the homo. Don't hear me just picking on the trans folks. It's all a sin. And I said yesterday, the Bible flee from sexual immorality. The reason why our culture sucks is because when people are so focused on their own sexual gratification, you reduce people, you reduce the person you're objectifying to an object. So you're taking that image bearer of God and you're in your mind, you're translating them into an object that results in your climax. That's it. You're reducing who God made into a composition of elements and whatever to get your own neurochemistry and your own physiology to go to fizz one direction. That's a really barbaric, tyrannical, satanic chemistry experiment that you're doing. When you look at someone else, you're doing that to do the chemistry in your body so it makes you feel good. Well, what are you not doing? One, you're not respecting them. You're not loving them. We're told to love other people. But two, you're focused on that. And if anyone tries to intervene in between your feeling good, you're going to oppose them. Well, the government's job is not to defend your feeling good, let alone intervene and provide for your feeling good. That's not the government's job. It's not the Constitution. It's not what the Constitution says. Constitution treats people equally. You want to win people over to supporting homosexual marriage? Then do it the old-fashioned way, no pun intended, by convincing them. But see, when Obergefell, that's the Supreme Court ruling in 2012, 2013, they came down and said same-sex marriage is the same. 35 states, that's 2/3 of the states, had some type of amendment or legislation or prohibition to fornicating marriage. So no, it was not by consensus. People were not convinced. The argument was not won, and I argue that most of the people are still that way today. Because it's gross, and it's not biblical. And people know that ain't right. And whenever you got a bunch of them coming on from San Francisco saying, we're going to convert your children, it's like, dude, let me teach you about some let me teach you about some amendments. let me give you some basic civic education. All right, let's roll the rock and let's get to the military mandating. Article has been going around. This article I found leaked documents. I reported on this whenever it came out a couple days ago. This article refers to this article from the Army Times from July 1. So this article, I read this, and basically they say the Army's going to make it happen, and if the Army's going to do it, then the Navy's going to do it, the Air Force is going to do it, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, they're all going to do it. So a couple things that I want to say is you can screenshot this. This is VIIRS. This is the number of people according to or through July 7 who have been injured by this one vaccine. 438,000 reports. You've got all those deaths, and this is the actual website from yesterday or 2 days ago when I clipped it. So that's a lot of stuff. So you can screenshot that, visit that if you want to. Here's what the issue is. I think there's a couple different issues. And we're gonna have some real talk. All right? Here's the real talk. If you're in the military, you have sworn an oath to give up certain rights. Yes, give up certain rights. Like, you can't say whatever you want to as a member of the military. You can't go out there and curse the commander-in-chief, because that violates the principle of war, the unity of command. You need the commander-in-chief to be the commander-in-chief. And if people who are subordinate to him are insubordinate to him, it actually subverts, that's a lot of subs and ins and verts, it subverts the purpose of the institution. It actually degrades the military's ability to fight the war if everyone disagrees with the commander-in-chief. This is why the commander-in-chief has the ability to fire anybody on a whim, basically, because he's the commander-in-chief. The buck stops there, as Harry Truman would say. Abraham Lincoln went through 6 generals before he found himself Ulysses S. Grant. The Army of the Potomac had a new general basically every day. You had the fighting in Antietam, 2-day battle, boom, fired him, gone. The Battle of Gettysburg, it was won by a guy named General Meade, but General Meade didn't pursue General Lee. So whenever Meade broke the back, and it wasn't him, it was a guy named Chamberlain from the 20th Maine. Great history. Go, if you've ever had the opportunity to go walk Gettysburg, go walk the Devil's Den right there on Little Round Top, where the 20th Maine was fighting off the Confederates. Just you'll love Civil War history. Civil War history is rich and it's beautiful and it tells a great story. Very vicious, divided time in our country. Kind of like now. It might be relevant. Point is, Meade, anytime I talk military history, I get down the rabbit hole. Meade did not pursue Lee when Lee was defeated, which is that's the best time that you can go kill people, is when they're on the run, particularly away from you, because if they're facing this way and you're this way, their back is towards you. You can't shoot really well behind you. Anyway, the point is, Lincoln fired 6 generals before he found his one general, Ulysses S. Grant, which he was named the Butcher. Through his wilderness campaign in 1864, they also called him Unconditional Surrender Grant because he didn't take crap from nobody. Also a West Point grad and future president. He also liked beer. But the idea is the commander-in-chief has been given incredible deference and latitude to basically do whatever he wants in the military. And so if the commander-in-chief decides that something is going to be the case, there's very few, if any, ramifications. However, I know that is not a good response, because if I were in the military, I would not want that as a response. So I have 6. What's it called? 6 suggestions of varying different, like, escalating things. So if you are in the military, if you have someone who's in the military and they're looking down the barrel of a needle, receiving this daisy, then there's a couple different things that I would do. First and foremost, I would pray. Absolutely pray. Absolutely. Give everything to God. 2 Corinthians 10, make all thoughts captive to Christ. So I would pray. Second thing that I would do is I would use your military channels. I would use an open door policy, and I would do it now. I would have it annotated in a counseling packet of some sort. I would create a paper trail. I would have your frontline leader, either your team leader, your squad leader, your platoon sergeant, your platoon leader, your first sergeant, your commander, your battalion commander, brigade commander. I would have whoever your first line leader is. I would ask them for a counseling session. I would say, I want to communicate this, and I would like you to write it down. Why? It doesn't have any legal authority until you are in a courtroom setting. So establish the precedent now before the order is given, that it makes you feel weird or anxious, or you don't trust it, you don't give your consent, whatever it is, get it in writing, get someone else to sign it that's in the chain of command, get that ink on that paper and get that sent off, and boom, create the paper trail. It's a preparatory paper trail. So that's what I would do. That's the second thing. The third thing is I would sue the Food and Drug Administration. So this article says that the Army says that the military, British, is not going to actually do the testing. They're not actually going to do COVID vaccines until the FDA gives it license to do it. So if you think about this, you've got the military. That is not the FDA. The FDA is the one that will boom the ability to license the vaccine to the DoD. So if I were you, and I don't have an attorney. Maybe there's an attorney that would do this. We need to have a website where it's like God-fearing, Bible-believing, patriotic attorneys and doctors, and just call it like America Market or something like that. I don't know, like the Live Local, the America Market. But find an attorney. Find a human rights attorney. Find a human rights attorney and sue the FDA for immediate injunctive relief. Prevent the FDA from licensing the vaccine. If the FDA does not license the vaccine, then it is not legal for the DoD to disperse it, compel it, or do anything else. The DoD is not in the authority to determine what to give their soldiers or what to give. And whenever I say soldiers, I mean them all. I'm just Army in my thinking. But the DoD doesn't have the authority to unilaterally or arbitrarily say we have to do this. I looked into the history of vaccines, compelled mandatory vaccines in the military. And the military, it has a long history of mandating vaccines, going all the way back to smallpox in the 1830s, smallpox treatments in the Civil War. So there's a long-standing history of mandating vaccines, and this is part of the next. So I would sue the FDA to stop licensing. And hold on, so I'll get to the history in a little bit, but right now, where is this? HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, codified what the development and licensure of vaccines to prevent COVID-19, a guidance for industry. This document right here, this is the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, June of 2020. This is the governing document that will tell you upon what standards they will license the drug, license the, and I mean, you can find it. I'll leave it up there. You can clip it, or you can look that up. It's a great fun read. This is what I was reading before we started. I'll put this down here, and I mean, you can just look that up. I found it with a simple DuckDuckGo search. I can't even get the thing. Come on, thing. There we go. I found it with a simple DuckDuckGo thing. But here's the idea, is that in this document, it says that there has to be animal experimentation. Before they can license the vaccine, there has to be animal experimentation. Well, I don't know if there was animal experimentation. I have to double check. And if there was, I would get very technical. I would find a human rights attorney, and I would integrate the Nuremberg Code, which says you have to have, the first thing in the Nuremberg Code is you have to have informed consent. So you just don't give your informed consent, which is why the second thing that I said was to do a counseling session, get it in writing that you don't want this vaccine, like you don't want this vaccine. The reason why I showed you the VAERS stats of people who have been injured and killed from this is so that you can bolster your case, because in this document, it talks about there has to be a requisite statistical level of no ill effects. So before they can license it, they have to have results from studies and experimentations using animals. And those experimentations have to have a certain amount of statistical overhead that the vaccine doesn't break that threshold. And it's in the document. But from that's what I would sue the FDA on. I would say, you guys have not met this threshold according to VAERS, and because you guys have busted the threshold, you guys shouldn't license it. That's what I would sue on. I would sue on medical malpractice or whatever. I don't know what the legal words is. I'm a stuffologist, not a lawyerologist, but that's what I would do. And then the next thing that I would do, if you think about the history of the military with respect to compelling vaccines, every single time the military did it, one, they had approval from people like this, but two, Congress was the one that stipulated what readiness was. And that's what the military is going to do. The military is going to say that this is a readiness issue. They're going to say that the health of the force is a readiness issue, specifically a sustaining issue, sustaining of the readiness. What I would do, if I were there, is I would say that this does not sustain readiness because it causes unit division, which is you going to your team leader saying, I don't want this and I don't want to be part of a unit that does this. So the more people in the military who do this, the more they're like, okay, yeah. Now, will they pay attention to you little people? Probably not. My gut reaction is they're going to mandate it. I'm just trying to give you options to slow it down or to fight back from an effective, specific, logical, legal, moral, constitutional, justified way. You got to think about what the system is and use the system to your advantage. So I would move upstream, and instead of waiting for the military to do anything, I would move upstream to the FDA and I would sue them. I would sue the FDA to prevent the licensing of the vaccine. That's what I do. And then there's, in their own guidance, they say the things that they have to do in order to license. So even though the military wants to do it, they can't do it unless the FDA does it. If the military does it without the FDA blessing them off, well, then now you know you're just in wild, wild west territory, which is why I'll recommend my very last thing. The next one is that Congress defines the standards. So write your U.S. congressman, write your U.S. senator, get on the phone, get them to figure out what that is. If you go back to the National Defense Authorization Act that they just passed in 2020 that President Trump vetoed because they did not include Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which would have restricted or removed the federal protections of big tech, I would look into that as far as what the definitions of readiness were, because I doubt with a Trump Congress and a Trump, it wasn't a Trump Congress, but I doubt Trump, I don't know. I would look in that language, and that's a big fat thousands-page document. I would look in the language for what the definition of readiness is, and I would get very granular on what that applies, because the application of readiness needs to be directly connected to the mission of the military, the mission of the DoD. Does the DoD have a mission, or will have a mission, or expect to have a mission where the COVID vaccine is required for mission performance and effectiveness? I would make the case no. I'd make the case no, and you can cross-apply that with the amount of the force that's already vaccinated, the amount of severe cases from 2020 that did not happen, like the presence of, use the actual statistics of 2020 and COVID in the military. They probably exist. Look up the Surgeon General, look up the Medical Corps. They've probably got those statistics, but you look that up and you say, listen, there was not a big deal. This is not a medical driven decision, which then gets it down to a command decision. If it's a command decision, then it's going to happen. Just telling you, that is where you should be prepared to resign. And you depend on think about what you value most, your career or taking this vaccine. It really depends on how serious you are about this. There will be some people that are like, oh, screw it, I'll do it. I disagree with that, but if they're providing for their family and that's what they have, then okay. But then, what was brought up in a voice chat, I don't know if they'll let you do it. I don't know if they'll let you out. Just because you resign your commission doesn't mean that they'll accept your resignation. Just because you want to leave your contract doesn't mean they'll let you leave your contract. And then ultimately, and this is ultimately, you get your sheriff. Sheriff is your constitutional authority. You live in a county. If you're CONUS, if you're OCONUS, I got nothing for you. But if you're CONUS, you live in a county. The sheriff is the posse comitatus, the power of the county. If the military is doing something unconstitutional, then they can't do something unconstitutional in a sheriff's district. Because then they're violating, literally, the 1887 Posse Comitatus Act. Posse Comitatus limits what the military can do inside domestic U.S. Sorry. First time ever, scratchy throat. I hope that helps. It's a bad situation. Scratchy throat. It's not a good situation. But those are the things I would do. I would pray. I would use your open door policy, establish a paper trail. I would sue the FDA to have an injunction against the licensing of the issue, and I would use that June 2020 policy as the litmus test to do that. Specifically, they require animal experimentation, and they have to have certain results of that. I would say Congress defines the standard of readiness, so contact your congressman. I would use VAERS data to demonstrate the fact that the statistical threshold has been breached insofar as the vaccine is unsafe, according to the June 2020 policy guidance. Now, they can come back and just change the policy guidance, but again, you're trying to tie stuff up in court. You're trying to delay. Why are you trying to delay? Maybe to get a Republican Congress in there, maybe till President Trump comes back, or all those other kinds of things. You're just trying to delay. Ultimately, think about resigning. What does your resignation look like? How does that affect your family? How does it affect your move, your job? This is the enemy. This is the enemy. The enemy is spiritual, manifesting as government tyranny. And so how do you respond? If you're in the military, find like-minded people, do the stuff that I suggest, I recommend, and then, ultimately the sheriff controls the guns. Well, Jarrin, I live on post. I'm in a county, but I live on post. How is my sheriff going to help me? I'm not going to tell you what to do, but the sheriff has jurisdiction in specific parts. Now, will that sheriff give you up? Probably, because it's the U.S. military. These are uncharted waters. So I'm looking at what is a really bad situation, trying to figure out what's the best course of action. Human rights attorney, human rights counsel, Nuremberg Code, sue the FDA, open door policy, get that on your record. Have Congress redefine or look into the standard of readiness. Resign, sheriff, VAERS data. Pray. I hope that helps. That's probably what I would do. That's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff in there. I would not say lie, but warfare is warfare. Warfare is warfare. That's all I will say. That's all I will say. You can find more information about me in the links below. The gospel of Jesus Christ is Jesus took our sins. You and I broke God's law. Jesus paid the fine. That's what he did on the cross. He paid our fine. When he rose from the grave, he proved that he had power over death. You believe in that. Turn away from your sin. You believe in the resurrected Christ, you will go to heaven. Do it not, and you will have conscious eternal torment in a lake of fire. You will be begging for just a drop of water. There's people in hell right now that are screaming for what I just drank. Water. They're just screaming out for it in hell right now. And they're not even in the lake of fire yet. They got all of eternity to worry about that and to be punished. Don't do it. Humble yourself. Repent of your sin. Read the Bible. Trust in the resurrected Christ. And you and I will get to hang out with Jesus forever. It's going to be great. This is my job. 100% listener supported. No corporate ads. If you want to say thank you, I would appreciate that. You have Venmo, PayPal on the bottom. Please consider the $15 a month of Subscribe Star. If that's too much, no worries. No worries. I love what I do. I appreciate that this supports my family. I have fun. And hopefully tonight we help some folks. With that, I want you to have a good weekend. I'm Jarrin Jackson. I love America. Now go to war.